Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the new topic. The chapter name is microorganisms, friend and foe. What is here microorganism? Why we have to discuss about microorganism? What we are discussing about in this chapter? In this chapter, we are discussing about how microorganisms are useful to us, how microorganisms are harmful to us, how it affects us, how it is useful to us economically or medicinally or otherwise. Okay, that means we are discussing about what totally microorganisms. That means some are useful to us, some are harmful to us. That is our chapter name here, the given. Okay, our chapter name is microorganisms, friends and foe. What is the meaning of foe? Means what? Enemies. Okay, microorganisms are friends to us and also not only friends, enemies also to us. How can you say these are enemies, these are what friends to us? That is, we have to discuss about that one only. Okay, first of all, we are going to discuss about definition of microorganisms. What is microorganisms? Microorganisms. Generally, microorganisms, what is microorganism? Living things are classified into plants and animals, even microorganisms also. What is microorganisms? Microorganisms means what? In our body, for example, if you think in our body, daily we are eating some food. In that food also some type of microorganisms is there. For example, we are taking outside food. Okay, and sometimes we are using what spoiled food also. Okay, we don't know. Okay, especially for the microorganisms, smallest organism. These organisms we cannot see with our naked eye. Which organisms we cannot see with our naked eye? That organism we cannot see with our eye. That organisms we can call microorganisms. In our body, in our hands, in our, for example, around us, so many microorganisms is there. These microorganisms we cannot find out. We cannot see directly with our naked eye. That type of organisms we can call microorganisms. Okay, how can you observe microorganisms? That is important. Okay, if you want to observe microorganisms, what we have to do? Okay, if you want to observe microorganisms, how can you observe? Next concept is how can you observe microorganisms? Using with activities. What type of activities we have to do to observe microorganisms? If you want to observe microorganisms, we have to do some activities, simple activities. That is very simple activities. What we have to do to observe what microorganisms? Simple, very simple. What we have to do? Just okay. First of all, we have to observe in moist soil. In moist soil, we have to observe what? Microorganism. Okay. First, collect some moist soil, especially in agriculture field. Where we have to collect that moist soil? In agriculture soil, in agriculture field. Why we have to collect in agriculture field only? That is important. Okay, why we have to take moist soil only? In moist soil, microorganisms are growing very fast compared with the dry soil. That environment is suitable, okay, for growing different types of microorganisms. Okay, so that we have to take what? Moist soil. Why we have to collect soil from agriculture field? Why we have to collect soil from agriculture field? In agriculture field, some are useful microorganisms, easy to possible to collect. Some useful microorganisms, some harmful microorganisms. So that we are collected. What we are collected? Some soil, some moist soil from agriculture field, and take a beaker. Okay, take a beaker. In that beaker, pour some water water. Whatever you collected agriculture field, some soil, okay, pour that one, add that one into the water. Add soil into the water. This is what soil. After few minutes, what will be happen? Whatever soil particles is there, these soil particles are settled down. And what will be happen? We are observed what soil particles at bottom. Soil particles at bottom. Okay, the whatever water we took, that is changing the color. And why? Because that is turns into what? Soil color. Whatever color is that soil, it's turned into what? Light soil color. And take 1 or 2 drops of water in that. Take one slide, pour 1 or 2 drops of water and cover with cover slip. Keep under the microscope. We will observe different types of what? Microorganisms, which are movable objects. That movable objects are microorganisms. That means this is very simple experiment. In this experiment, what we have to do? First of all, we have to take some moist soil. Where we have to take moist soil? In agriculture field. In agriculture field, we have to collect some moist soil and okay, take a beaker, pour some water, add some that soil. After a few minutes, whatever soil particles is there, they are settled down and at bottom. And after that one, the water, whatever water is there in, okay, which is changed the water color, changed the water, and automatically you have to take 1 or 2 drops of water, pour on the water drop on slide, and keep under the microscope. We will observe various types of microorganisms. Some simple experiment. This is. And one more experiment is useful to observe microorganism. What is that experiment? Next experiment. Simple experiment. This is also very simple. What is that simple experiment? The simple experiment is next experiment. Okay, do one thing. Okay, every village nearby us, maybe around 5 to 6 kilometers, we are observe some pond or lake, okay, or tanks or anything. Okay, just what, especially for where does stagnant water is there. Stagnant means what? That water is not moving here and there. Especially in stagnant water, in pond or lake or tank. Okay, bring some water from pond. Okay, what we have to do? Bring some water from pond. Okay, using a small whatever vessel you have to use. Bring some water, collect some water, bring some water from pond. Why we have to took water in that pond only? Why? Because we have to take water from pond. In pond is a stagnant water is there. So many types of microorganisms are growing in that. That is the water is natural one. In natural one. So that so many microorganisms are growing. Microorganisms. That's why we have collected water from pond only. Okay. Collect some water from pond and take a test tube. Sorry, what we call slide. And pour 1 or 2 drops of pond water. After that one, we will observe in that slide some are different, some are movable objects. Easy to observe that movable objects using with microscope. That movable objects are what? That movable objects are microorganisms. In that we will observe various types of microorganisms we will observe. Okay, what are the types of microorganisms we will observe in these? Various types of, some even amoeba, euglena, paramecium, unicellular organisms also possible to observe in a pond water, like amoeba. Okay, some bacteria. Okay, some type of protozoans, some type of what? Okay, even fungus also. How can you observe fungus? We have to discuss. Okay, later. But here, that in the pond water, especially stagnant water, storage. Stagnant means storage. That water is stores lot of so many years. So that what? So many types of microorganisms are growing in that pond water. So that we are collected pond water and pour 1 or 2 drops of water on a slide. Keep under the microscope. We will observe so many types of microorganisms. That means if you want to observe microorganism, what we have to do? Okay, first of all, you have to take some moist soil, add that soil into the water. After a few minutes, you have to take some 1 or 2 drops of water, pour on slide, keep under the microscope. We will observe so many microorganisms. Second activity is what? In second activity, directly you have to collect pond water only, or lake or tank, whatever is there. Okay, collect the water and also pour 1 or 2 drops of to fly, and after that one you will observe various types of microorganisms. Okay, microorganisms are classified or divided into especially 4 groups. Okay, what type of microorganisms we will observe in an pond water or moist soil or other. Okay, for example, now we are going to discuss about types of microorganisms. Types of microorganisms. What are the various types of microorganisms? Generally, microorganisms are classified into 4 groups, but in some books given about 5 groups also. Viruses also included in microorganisms. Okay, for example, these 4 groups are: one is bacteria, second one is protozoans, third one is algae. Okay, bacteria, protozoan, algae, and protozoans, algae. Okay, one more is there. What? Bacteria, protozoans, algae. Okay, and fungus. Fungus, fungi or fungus. Okay, and bacteria, protozoan, algae, and fungus or fungi. Okay, and also even in some books given viruses also. Viruses are different compared with these organisms. Here, the types of microorganisms are classified into 4 groups. What are they? Bacteria, protozoans, algae, fungus. And viruses also included in, especially for microorganisms. That is, the viruses are the smallest microorganisms. Compared with other organisms, these are smallest. That means we cannot find out, we cannot see using with what? Simple microscope. We have to, if you want to observe the viruses, only viruses are possible to see using with electronic microscope only. It is not possible to see using with what? Especially for simple microscope. If you want to observe what viruses generally we are discussing about what? Coronavirus. Especially for if you want to observe any virus, only possible to see these viruses using with what? Electronic microscope only. Okay, so that these are the smallest microorganisms. Compare with bacteria, protozoan, and algae and fungi, these are smallest one, very small. Sometimes these viruses are also living in bacteria. Bacteria is the smallest one. Even viruses are also living in bacteria. That much of small is there. And viruses are different compared with these organisms. Why viruses are different compared with these bacteria, protozoan, and algae and fungus? Why these are different organisms compared with other organisms? Why? Because these are different. Viruses are very smallest, and also these viruses having some special characters. What is that special character? Viruses are only possible to see using with electron microscope, and also when they are in outside the body. For example, example only. I am drawing a rough diagram. Okay, this is a human being. Example only. Human being. I am wrote here host. Human being is a host. Okay. Human being is the host. Okay. The microorganisms special character, that means what is that special character? For example, this is a virus, not possible to see. Virus, when it is having in outside the body, in atmosphere, when it is having in outside the body, in atmosphere, they behave like what? Non-living organisms. Viruses are non-living things in outside the body. What is the meaning of outside the body? That means when it is enter into the body, that is the special character, special feature of virus. When it is, for example, this is virus. Virus behaves in outside the body like, okay, so that I tried here. In outside the body, they behave like non-living thing. When it is enter into the body, they behave like living things. That is very, very important about virus. When it is enter into the body, it behaves like what? Living thing. When it is in outside the body, they behave like what? Non-living thing. Only viruses are multiplied. That means improve their generation, develop their generation, improve their generation. Only inside the body only. When the viruses are enter into the body, which body given shelter to the virus? That is called host. Host means what? Which given shelter. Which organism? For example, not only human being, animals also. Viruses are, when the viruses are enter into the body, the virus multiplies and improve their generation, develops their generation. That means only viruses are developing in host body. Viruses are improve their generation, multiplies and improve in their generation only in host body only. Host body only, in living cell only. Okay, that is important. In living cell only, viruses are developing. In living cell only. In non-living cells, viruses cannot develop. Even in viruses are developed in plant cell, in animal cell. Animal means even human being also animal. Okay, animal cell, and also even in bacteria cell also. It develops in bacterial cell also. Okay, so that viruses are developed in plant cells, it will be developed. Animal cells it will be developed, and also what? In bacterial cells it will be developed. So that I think, okay, viruses are what? Very compared with other organisms, these are different organisms. Compared with these organisms, these are different organisms. Okay, compared with what? Bacteria. Okay, for example, bacteria. What is bacteria? Bacteria are unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms, and these are prokaryotes. Prokaryotes. What is prokaryotes? Prokaryotes means what? They do not have distinct what? It's nucleus. Nothing but the nucleus is absent. Proper nucleus is absent. They don't have proper nucleus. Prokaryotes. What is the meaning of prokaryotes? Means what? Absent of what? Distinct nucleus, or genetic only. In that bacteria we will observe what? Genetic material only. Genetic material. The nucleus is proper nucleus, distinct nucleus is absent in bacteria. Okay, what we are observing only genetic material. So that these are the prokaryote, unicellular and prokaryotic organisms, bacteria. Some bacteria are rod-shaped structures, some are what? Round-shaped, some are spherical, some are spring-shaped. Okay, some are rod-shaped structures. Okay, different types of bacteria we will observe. Okay, bacteria, how bacteria are affects? What type of diseases we are suffered with bacteria? For example, bacteria, already I am told, unicellular, prokaryotic organisms and primitive organisms. Bacteria are very primitive, structurally very primitive. And in bacteria, what type of diseases we are suffered with bacteria? Typhoid. Typhoid suffered with what? Vibrio cholerae. Example is what? Vibrio cholerae, which is comma shape. Okay, Vibrio cholera. What is that one Vibrio cholerae? That is a bacterial. So many diseases we have suffered with what? Bacterial diseases. And also protozoans. Who are protozoan? Protozoans are unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms. In protozoan, for example, what type of diseases we have suffered from protozoans? One is amoebic dysentery. Amoebic dysentery. And also what? Malaria. That will be very, very important. Okay, malaria, actually, mosquito is the not cause of malaria. Mosquito is a vector. The cause of malaria, protozoan. That protozoan name is Plasmodium. Plasmodium. Plasmodium is the cause of what? Especially for malaria. Okay, malaria organisms are what is the causative microorganism of malaria is protozoans. Try to remember, very important. Causative microorganism of malaria is what? Protozoan. Okay, and algae. In algae, some are unicellular, some are multicellular is there. Algae, generally, algae are what? Algae are, we are observed what? Especially for photosynthetic plants. These are also plants. Photosynthetic, that means autotrophs. Algae are autotrophs. What is the meaning of autotrophs? Means what? They prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis. Algae are what? Algae are photosynthetic organisms. In that algae, some are unicellular, some are multicellular organisms is there. Okay, first of all, okay, if you want to discuss about algae, generally algae are photosynthetic organisms. That means in that photosynthesis occurs, especially for these are also plants. In that plants, these algae, in algae, especially some are unicellular. Example is Chlamydomonas. Chlamydomonas. Some are multicellular. Example is Spirogyra. Okay, that means in algae also these are also photosynthetic plants. In that also some are microorganisms like unicellular and some are multicellular. And after that one, fungus. What is fungus? Okay, we are not suffered with any disease of algae. Okay, especially for algae are useful to us. It is useful as a food also. Japanese are using algae is the food. You know, what is algae? Floating posture we are observed diatoms. Especially for in a water we are observed what? Green color patches. That is nothing but algae. Okay. And also what? Fungus. In fungus, these are also plants. Fungus is also plant without chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is absent. Without chlorophyll, here chlorophyll is absent in this organism. That is what? Fungus. Fungus is also plants. In this fungus also some are unicellular. Unicellular example is what? Especially for yeast cells. And some are what? Multicellular. Some are multicellular. What are multicellular? So many examples. Bread mold, rhizopus, penicillium. Okay, one example we are trying to. Okay, bread mold, rhizopus. Bread mold, rhizopus. Rhizopus is the example of what? Especially for fungus. That means fungus also plants, but they do not have what? Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is absent, so that they depend upon others. These are also unicellular is there, multicellular. Unicellular fungus is example is yeast. Multicellular so many bread mold, rhizopus, penicillium, And also what, even in agaricus means nothing but mushroom. Mushroom is also good example of what? Fungus. Okay. And viruses, already we learnt about viruses. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about what is unicellular, what is multicellular organisms. What is unicellular? What is multicellular organism? In whatever we are observed in pond water, whatever is there in other, in microorganisms are, some microorganisms are some are unicellular organisms. Some are multicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. What is unicellular organisms? Somebody thought that, sir, in unicellular organism only having one cell. Oh no, it's wrong answer. What is unicellular organism? In unicellular organism, the total body made up of single cell. The organism made up of organism means what? Living thing. Organism made up of single cell. That is, we can call unicellular organism. For example, what is unicellular means what? The total organism made up of unicellular. We know very well, familiar about that one. Amoeba. Amoeba is the good example of what? Unicellular organism. Okay, amoeba. Nucleus. This is okay. Amoeba. And euglena. Amoeba, euglena, and paramecium. Paramecium. Okay, later you have to practice these diagrams, very important. This is what? Slipper animalcule. Paramecium, other name of paramecium we can call slipper animalcule. Why? Because it look like what? Slipper. This is what? Paramecium. This is what? Euglena. Paramecium. Chlamydomonas. is also example of Chlamydomonas. This is the example of what? Unicellular organisms. Okay, Chlamydomonas and also yeast cells, which are round in structure. Yeast. These are the examples of unicellular organisms. Unicellular means what? The total body made up of single cell. The total body means what? Even total organism is made up of what? Single cell. That is, we can call unicellular organism. Multicellular means what? Okay, for example, unicellular already we learned examples are amoeba, euglena. Okay, this is what? Euglena, paramecium, chlamydomonas, and yeast. Amoeba, euglena, and paramecium, these are belongs to what? Protozoans. All protozoans are unicellular, single-celled organisms. Protozoans. And Chlamydomonas belongs to what? Algae. And yeast is belongs to fungus. Okay, bacteria also. Okay, bacteria also example of what? Unicellular organisms. If you observe the diagrams of unit, this is what genetic material, and only some of the ribosomes and what cellular fluid. Okay, especially for this is what bacteria. Bacteria also unicellular. Okay, that means these are unicellular examples of unicellular organisms. This is what bacteria. Okay, that means these are unicellular means the total body made up of single cell. And after that one multicellular organism. What is multicellular organisms? The multicellular organisms means what? In the body made up of multi-cells. Okay, that means even human being, we are also multicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms are very less. But multicellular organism, the body made up of, sorry, here, okay, the body made up of multi-cells. Body made up of, total body made up of millions of cells, maybe more billions of cells. Okay, multicellular organisms means what? The organism, the body, total body made up of what? Multicellular. That is we can call, multi means so many cells. Okay, that is we can call multicellular organisms. For example, in multicellular organisms, in fungus, especially in algae, for example, first of all we have to see algae. In algae, we have observed what? Spirogyra. Especially in Spirogyra. Okay, in Spirogyra is a multicellular organisms. Okay, multicellular organism. Spirogyra is what? Multicellular organism. It is made up of multi-cells, so many cells. And even Penicillium notatum, that is what? Fungus. Penicillium notatum. And Rhizopus. Especially for Rhizopus is also example of what? Bread mold Rhizopus is also multicellular organisms. Okay, so that unicellular and multicellular examples are algae. Example is Spirogyra. Plants, animals are what? Especially for multicellular organisms. Examples of what? Fungus, multicellular organisms, Rhizopus, Penicillium. These are multicellular organisms. That means what we learned right now, which are unicellular, which are multicellular organisms. Now, where does we have to observe microorganisms? That means around us, where does these microorganisms are located? Okay. Now, if you want to observe microorganisms around us, everywhere is there. Microorganisms are living in everywhere. Okay. The habitat of microorganisms. Microorganisms are living everywhere. Everywhere. If you want to observe in all, that means what? If you air, in water, soil, everywhere, even in human being bodies, host body, even in plant body, even in animals body, okay, even in bacteria's body also it is living. So that the bacteria also one type of microorganism. So that microorganisms are living in everywhere. Even they are living in all types of environment also, all type of situations also they are living. Even some type of microorganisms are living in unfavorable conditions also. In favorable conditions they develop very fast. In unfavorable conditions also some type of what microorganisms are also living. That means if you want to observe microorganism, possible to observe everywhere. That means even there are in air, even in water, soil, in body. That means in host body. They are living in host body also. That means if you want to observe microorganisms, everywhere possible to observe microorganisms. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about how microorganisms are useful to us. Useful microorganisms. Okay. Useful microorganism, later harmful microorganisms. How microorganisms are harmful to us.